everybody. Welcome back. It's been a while.
Well, that's true. But if you've been paying attention, and for all of you who have clicked the live notification buttons here on Facebook and, of course, on YouTube, you've been seeing all the great content all along. And while we haven't been doing a Guild of Gamers, we have absolutely been sharing the amazing interviews that we have,
collected.
that we've collected at some of our big main events.
Yeah, we've been actually pretty busy.
That's true.
Yeah, we've been busy here at the store at Petrie's. I've been busy. You've been busy. I mean, it's been crazy. So we don't even remember what number it is, what live cast is. We're not even going to do that anymore.
Yeah, we've gone beyond numbers.
Yeah.
It's an enlightenment thing.
So today we are super excited. We actually get to have the owner of Black Void Games, Christoffer Sevaldsen, on the show.
Now, I haven't gotten to see that because I wasn't there.
Yeah, she didn't get an invite. It was a private party.
And I hear that it was a party. I can't wait for you guys to watch it. I'm going to be watching it live with you.
It was really cool. One of the big things, Christoffer is 14 hours ahead of us. So if we actually did the show like right now, it'd be like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. It's like really, really late for him. So
yeah, like bedtime.
Yeah. So I actually had a chance to get on his time zone, and we have a great interview with Christoffer today about a new RPG by Black Void Games called The Black Void.
Well, that's handy.
I know, right? So
easy to remember.
Yes.
And this is a perfect month in which to highlight this game, because I hear there's a major, holiday of some sort.
Halloween?
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. It's already October. It's already October.
I hear spooky things are supposed to happen.
Yes. Oh, we got Mark Street watching.
Hi. Welcome.
So, for those of you viewers that know Mark from Board Game Geek,
and
not Board Game Geek, I'm sorry, Dice Tower. I'm sorry, Mark. You can beat me up later. From the Dice Tower. He is also on Board Game Geek, but he does game reviews and game previews for the Dice Tower. But he has a brand new channel.
No, he doesn't.
He does. Called The Nebula Files.
That is a brilliant name.
Do you know what the Nebula is for?
Stars. Gases.
Guardians
Space.
of the Galaxy Nebula.
Oh.
The sister. The android.
I like it.
So he got a new Cooper Mini Roadster, and so he's just named it Nebula. And what's really cool is he's documenting all his adventures on the road, which is kind of cool because if you're used to seeing Mark do game previews and game reviews, this is a fun little project that he's dumping his heart into. It's really cool. So you got to check it out on YouTube, The Nebula Files. You can also follow him on Instagram at The Nebula Files.
I'm absolutely going to do that because
I know.
that sounds hilarious.
Because we're all geeks. We're all passionate about gaming and something.
It's true.
But whatever else we get into, we're also very passionate.
It's true.
It is. He's like, Dice Tower. He's like, no, Dice Tower. So, before we get into the interview with Christoffer Sevaldsen from Black Void Games, we want to give you, because it's been a while since we've
talked to you live.
Yes. So we want to share some events with you. So coming up this month and into November.
It's true. I, of course, am pleased to tell you that we have our Keyforge tournaments and Star Wars Armada tournaments. They happen on a monthly basis, but we do have some special ones that we are going to be announcing soon, happening on August 15th, and I think again on the 21st. It's going to be a special event. Check us out Of course, if you're here on Petrie's homepage, then again, just click the notifications. Make sure you're following us because we bring you the best news and events here on our Facebook page.
We are the best.
And of course, on all of our other social media accounts. Armada is happening on the 12th. It's a 1 o'clock start time. And then we have some special things that, you know what, if you're not into this hobby, you may not know that we do this, but if you are into this hobby, oh man, we have a Pokemon Sun and Moon Cosmic Eclipse pre-release happening on the 27th of this month. We are excited about that because...
Sun and Moon?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Is that like father and son or mother-daughter or...
No, do you not play Pokemon?
No.
I'm sorry. Don't be mad.
I'm sorry. The whole Wizards Unite Harry Potter app is... That's so much... It's like the Pokemon Go app, but it's Harry Potter. It's so fun.
No. This is a card game. And if you're in the know, then you know that the sun and moon... Anyway, it's a thing. And I know that some of you are going to be excited about that. We also have our Destiny Prime Championship happening on the 26th. That starts at 11 a.m. Make sure that you get signed up for that. We have our Throne of Eldraine Brawl. And if you have never been in a Magic the Gathering Brawl... I promise it is, do not picture nerds trying to beat each other up. Think of kaiju and trying to beat each other up.
Yes.
We also have our X-Wing Halloween special event. That is a special $5 tournament, so really reasonable. Please do come down. It's going to be a great build out, and that is happening on October the 29th at 7 p.m. And then our Game of Thrones...
Can't beat $5.
That's true.
$5 is...
How reasonable is that? The Game of Thrones Prime Championship is also then going to happen at the beginning of next month on November 2nd. That is starting at 10 a.m. And of course, we have all of our regular events, but I know that you smart folks know how to get to our website with our handy-dandy calendar, in addition to the events that are all listed here on Facebook.
But for those that are brand new, we should still tell them.
Oh. You can find all of these events and more on our website, petriesgames.com, and then just click that little calendar tab. It'll take you to where all of our awesomeness lives. No, it doesn't live there.
It's published?
Published.
Yes, where it's published. That's the easiest word for gamers to relate with, publish. Yeah. So, we'll check it out. So we are going to go to the interview with Christoffer Sevaldsen from Black Void Games. For those of you that are RPGers, you're in for a treat. If you've always thought about doing an RPG and you don't know where to start, this is a great one to start. But we're not going to give any more spoilers. We're going to roll it. See you back in a bit.
So excited.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I am here with... very special guest, Christoffer Sevaldsen, who is the owner and founder of Black Void Games. Welcome, Christoffer.
Thank you very much.
So for those of you that are watching live, Christoffer just flew in to Singapore this morning. But it was his time. But it's like 11 o'clock at night his time now, so he's had a long day of travel, but he has taken the time out of his schedule to sit here and chat with us and all the viewers of the Guild of Gamers live cast, which is powered by Petrie's Family Games. So Thank you, Christoffer.
Happy to be here.
So even though you currently just moved to Singapore, you're from Copenhagen, correct?
Yes, this is correct.
And that's where your family is from?
Yes. So we're originally from Denmark, but we moved to Dubai 9 years ago, and then recently moved to Singapore about a month ago. So trying to become global citizens.
Well, I have to compliment you. Your English is very, very good.
Thanks.
Where did you learn English?
I don't really know, to be quite honest. But I started reading Dragonlance in English when I was about probably 12 or 13, because they were much cheaper than the Danish versions. And then I guess through role playing and so on and so forth. And the other thing is in Denmark we subtitle. We don't translate. So obviously we get the original voices and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of English, and the fact that there's only 5 million of us, obviously we need to learn English to get around in the world.
Gotcha. Now you are married, correct? With
Yes.
with 3 boys.
3 boys, yes.
Yeah. What is your wife's name? What are your kids' names? How old are they?
My wife's name's Therese, and I have 3 sons: Sophus, who's 10, Daniel, who's 7, and William, who's 1.5 now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So I just share that with our viewers because we're all intense about gaming, whether it's role playing games, tabletop games, miniatures games, but even though we want to spend so much time at the table, our family is, constantly demanding our time. And as you can see, Christoffer has his plate full, especially with a 1.5-year-old.
Yeah, but the cool thing is sometimes you can combine those things. I mean, I recently started playing 40K with my 2 eldest boys, so obviously there's a good combo there. And they want to play Black Void as well. So even though it's not quite for that age category, we kind of soften it up a little bit for them.
Outstanding. So you are currently the owner and founder of Black Void Games.
Yes.
And you are part of also, your background. You were formerly a marketing director for Pandora. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pandora, the streaming service.
No, Pandora, the jewelry company.
Pandora, the jewelry company. Wow.
Yes.
So, what did you study in school?
Right. I have a bachelor in philosophy and a master's degree in communication.
So how did you end up being the marketing director for a jewelry company?
Right. Good question. My wife got expatriated to Dubai, where I ran into the guy who had the franchise rights for Pandora for the Middle East. And then sort of one thing led to another, and obviously with the communications background, it sort of made sense to move into marketing. And then I started off sort of slowly, and then it just sort of grew from there. When I started, we had 4 stores based in Dubai, and 4 years later, we had 32 stores across the region. So I sort of built my career alongside Pandora, building its reach in the Middle East.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So why did you start Black Void Games?
Right. So the game has been worked on sort of on and off for the past maybe 15 or 18 years, something like that. But I think, what is it, about 4 or 5 years ago, I stopped in Pandora, and I invested in another jewelry company as a partner. And fairly quickly found out that was not going to take up all my time. So I started considering whether I should actually try to focus on this lifelong dream of mine, which was to actually do something with Black Void, which wasn't called Black Void at the time.
So we all know it's called Black Void now. So you give it a little Easter egg. What was the original name, or some of the original ideas you had for the name of your company?
Well, originally the game itself was just called Lin, which is the main setting of the game. And that's what it was called for, I think, 10 years or so. But it started out as a much more sort of generic homebrew that I was fiddling around with. But then, things started to sort of build, and the whole idea of the metaphysical aspects and so on sort of came through, and that's when the name Black Void sort of came into being. And then, my main focus with the company was to launch the game, so I thought it made sense to have something that had a similar ring and name to it. So that's how the name Black Void Games came to be.
Awesome. Now, did you when you founded Black Void Games
Yeah.
officially, were you still doing a real day job, or did you completely leave your day job and commit 100% to Black Void?
I left my day job and I had a very serious chat with my wife, and I asked her if she could sort of carry the financial weight for a bit while I tried to live out this dream. And luckily, she said yes.
Wow. I mean, kudos, to your wife and to you
For sure.
to have the courage to step out on faith and go after something that you're really, really passionate about.
Yeah, and definitely huge kudos to her. I mean, if it wasn't for her, I'm not sure we would be sitting here doing this today.
Do you remember
on several levels?
Do you remember the day you had that conversation with her? How long ago was that?
I do. That was about two years and a couple of months ago. So what had happened was, a bit prior to that, I had discovered Kickstarter, and I had backed my first role-playing game on Kickstarter, which was Wade Dyer's Fragged Empire. And then, as I found out that the investment I had going wasn't going to take up as much of my time as I thought, I started, the idea grew that, well, if he can do this thing, why shouldn't I be able to, or at least give it a go, So I sat down with her and I said, I really want to do this. She knew I'd been working on it for a long time. And we were in a decent place financially and so on and so forth. So I said, this would be amazing for me to give a go. So would you be okay with dragging the weight for a bit? And she was like, yeah.
I like how you put it, dragging the weight. It's like, honey, I am weight to you.
Exactly. I'm dead weight, and you're gonna have to do all the pulling for a bit.
Oh my goodness. So speaking of Kickstarter,
yeah.
So you launched the Kickstarter campaign for Black Void Games for the first RPG book, and it was successfully funded in May of 2018.
Yeah,
your first campaign, and you were successfully funded. I mean, some of the stats are 218% funded, with over 1,000 backers. That's really cool. And you said you backed your first RPG, but we all know how addictive Kickstarter is. I mean, you've backed 24 projects yourself.
Yeah.
And most of them are RPGs. I noticed a couple card-driven tabletop RPGs, and even the occasional novel and sketching books, on there as well.
I back what I find interesting. And obviously a lot of it is sort of game driven, but I do some of the artwork in the books as well. So obviously I want to get better. And there's some cool novels there that I want to support as well, because I'm one of those up and coming, so I wanna do for others what has been done for me, so to say. So
no, that's cool. Yeah. You're a content creator. So why did you choose Kickstarter over GoFundMe or other crowdfunding platforms? I mean, what made you want to start it yourself and build it?
Right. Well, there's two things. First thing is Kickstarter is still the biggest crowdfunding platform out there, and with a huge section within gaming. And what I did when I started thinking about the whole idea of crowdfunding was I bought this book called The Crowdsourcers by Alex, whatever her name is, and read that to get sort of ideas and guidelines on how to do it and what to do and so on and so forth. And she talks about both Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I don't think she talks about GoFundMe. And I just had a look and I thought, well, most of the games that I would personally back, I have found on Kickstarter rather on any of the other ones. So I thought that would be a good place to start in terms of having like-minded people that might find my idea interesting, you know? So that's sort of how I decided on that. The reason I decided to go on Kickstarter as well was to sort of do it as a test to see if Black Void was only an idea that I would find compelling, or if there were others that actually thought, well, this is worth a couple of bucks, you know? So it's sort of a market research scheme as well, because I was thinking, if I couldn't get the funds to actually launch it, it's probably not going to be a success in the real world anyway.
No, I mean that totally, makes sense. How long did you plan prior to the campaign, before the actual project went live? Once you decided Kickstarter, that's the platform. Yep. How much preparation did you take before the campaign went live?
Around 2 or 3 months. So what I did was I sat down and I made a very sort of thorough campaign plan in terms of what news to send out when and where, and the text for the Kickstarter page, and updates, and which marketing to use, and to reach out to social media influencers and so on and so forth, and as well to build up a mailing list, because obviously that's very important. So what I did was I had sort of the beta version of a quick start for the game, and I started spreading the news that if you signed up for the mailing list, you would get this quick start, which served two purposes, obviously. One was to spread the word about it. Secondly was to get people to sign the mailing list. And thirdly, obviously, as well, to get feedback on it.
Oh, yeah. Feedback
prior to launching it
is invaluable.
Yes, definitely.
Especially prior to launch. So, I mean,
yeah.
you really mapped this out well. And obviously, you learned from backing 24 projects on Kickstarter, what backers look for, what makes them tick, what do they desire. How long did the campaign run? How many days?
30 days.
30 days. And
yeah,
wait, there was like you pretty much updated almost every day during the campaign. Almost every.
I think. Yeah, I did every second, more or less. I didn't want to do too much, and I didn't want to do too little, because it can feel a little bit spammy if you get updates every day as well.
Yeah.
And you wanna have content that's actually interesting and enticing to backers, and not only that, but also to sort of spur them on to spread the word to other people. So obviously, my background within marketing and communications helped quite a bit with making a good plan for that, and having content calendar and schedule and so on and so forth. So I had sort of a blueprint of what I wanted to say and when I wanted to say it. Also, obviously, depending on the potential success or lack of success of the campaign at the given time.
So, So were you just solo, just you for this, or did you have a team helping you out?
Well, it was both, so to say. I mean, at this time I had artists already. So because a lot of the book was written, and some of the art was made obviously to have things to show off. which was out of pocket before I launched the Kickstarter, obviously. And then through something called Golf Role Playing Community, I had met a lot of wonderful role players in Dubai and the Middle East in general that were very kind to offer help and feedback and sort of had my back. So it's a bit of a mix, you know. There was a lot of volunteers that gave good advice and helped out, but ultimately it was me sitting with the responsibility of everything. But I got
networking is always a good thing.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one of the good things about this industry as well, is that people are so friendly and giving. I mean, I reached out to a lot of the people behind the projects that I've backed myself, and I've never
awesome.
once been turned down when asking questions. You know, how did you guys do this? Would you recommend I do that? You know, so on and so forth. So
that's good.
It's been overwhelming in terms of how friendly and helpful people have actually been. So that was, you know, a great feeling to sort of start out with. Not that, you know, to feel that you're a competitor, but to feel that you're one of the crowd. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, it's like
which
it's
is
like
amazing.
One big gaming nerdy, you know,
Yeah,
family.
exactly. Exactly.
But besides reaching your funding goal, what were some of the major goals or milestones that you wanted to accomplish with this campaign?
Well, the main thing for me was to raise enough money, obviously, to be able to get the art I wanted for the book and to be able to print 1,000 copies of it. That was the main thing. And then as soon as the campaign reached the main goal, it was just, you know, arms over the head and just a huge thrill. And to be able to add on top of that, one of the things that I really was so happy to be able to do was to get the soundtrack for the game. I used to play in a band myself, 10 years, and I'm a very auditive person. So that was sort of one of the dreams that I always wanted to have, you know, that side to the game as well.
Wow, then and that's you don't find that very often, you know,
No.
because the soundtrack can really, especially with a role playing game, can really set the ambiance,
Yes.
And the mood and help you get into character. You know,
Exactly. I mean,
that's really cool. You know, I noticed all your stretch goals were achieved, which is
yeah.
awesome because the game, you know, overfunded.
Yeah.
Did you have these stretch goals planned out, or did you kind of have to come up with them on the fly based on ideas you had?
No, they were planned. I mean, they were planned in the sense that they were dreams. But the whole project in itself was a dream. But I had a plan of, if I was lucky enough to reach the goal in a good, you know, space of time before the end, you know, what would make the backers most happy to see realized, you know?
Yeah.
Because quite a few of the stretch goals was something that backers would get as a freebie, including the soundtrack. So all backers got sent the soundtracks. For
nice.
Instance.
Now, speaking of keeping backers happy and satisfied, you know, the original fulfillment date, it funded in May. You were looking at September to November ish, you know, of the same year, 2018. You know, but for our viewers, if you didn't know, or if you are a frequent Kickstarter backer, you understand sometimes campaigns get delayed, and I mean, it's, you know, it's September, and really it really wasn't fulfilled until July and August of this year, just the past couple of months, correct?
Yeah, true.
So
true.
What were some of the challenges or setbacks that delayed fulfillment?
Well, one of the things was I found out I was a complete and horrible perfectionist. So everything needed to be, 100% correct, which obviously takes a ton of time. And since I was doing almost all of everything except for the art, obviously myself. So I was doing the layout. I was doing a ton of the editing. I was very lucky to get an amazing editor to help me out, but obviously I was going through a lot of it myself as well. That just ended up taking so long, and I think that kind of shines through in the final product. I mean, at least that's what a lot of the backers have said.
So
that they can see this.
So even though you left your day job to completely devote to this, and you are 24/7 in it, after it being successfully funded, I mean, you're really burning the midnight oil, so to speak, on trying to get things fine-tuned. And trust me, being a perfectionist or having OCD, it's not a bad thing.
But it can be too much.
It can be too much because you want 100% perfection.
Yeah. But it's never going to be 100%.
No. But sometimes 95%.
I was going to say 97. That's sort of where I put my bar, just to be able to actually put it out there at some point.
So Christoffer is like way up here, and
exactly.
I'm like right here. So no, I mean, but that shows the passion and the desire you have. That I think I read one update that was not for backers only. And we'll come back to that. That you actually shared that you wanted to give them a great product. You did not want to sacrifice quality for speed. I think is the words you used. And I did notice, since I mentioned it, that a lot of those updates were for backers only. I kind of feel left out that I couldn't read it, but I mean, have in hindsight, for somebody that wants more information, about Black Void, I mean, that's basically a chronological record. I mean, is there a way to go back and since it's fulfilled and and everything, because I'm not familiar with Kickstarter, if you're able to unlock those updates? Or
I don't think I can unlock them. I can copy paste them and put them out there if I want to.
Or
I guess it's kind of like Captain's log, void dates, whatever.
Or maybe on your website, have like another tab that's like the history of how it was created, and take all the stuff from Kickstarter that makes sense, and just have like maybe a blog style or something, to where you have how it was created and lined out for those that let's face it, RPGers, they love the backstory of everything.
True.
What were the biggest lessons learned from the campaign?
From the campaign itself, I would say probably even more planning than I did. I think I was so happy that I decided to read up on how to do crowdfunding campaigns, because I dodged a lot of bullets because I had read a couple of books about how to do it, obviously. But that is not to say that quite a lot of things didn't sort of get sprung on me. So it was a lot of work. It was fun work, but I think I slept very, very little for those 30 days.
I can imagine, but for the viewers, a little bit of research and doing your homework goes a long way.
It does.
Especially when um, you're trying to evolve or be successful.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I was an officer in the Army for
Hmm.
10 years. Then I was a policeman for 5 years.
Okay.
And then I got into recreational sports like paintball.
Right.
But my university degree is geology.
Wow.
We would say
You're about as diverse as I am.
we would say rocks for jocks.
Exactly.
And even though geology is a science, I actually have a Bachelor of Arts
Okay.
degree because I didn't want to take chemistry and calculus.
I know
So
exactly where you're coming from.
yeah,
Mm,
but now being in marketing,
mm.
I've had to evolve and get into video editing. I use Adobe, the Adobe suite, and you
Right.
know, technology is such a great thing to be able to reach out and read. Like, hey, I want to learn some easy
Mm,
transitions with Adobe,
true.
like
Yeah.
YouTube. Bam! Like,
Yeah.
wow, Premiere
Mm,
Gal.
yeah.
There it is. Or how to sync audio. I mean, it's so cool because like when you and I were kids,
Yeah.
it's like where do you go to find you go to the library,
Yeah. You sit
to find
and
stuff.
through the encyclopedia and spend hours and hours on that. But obviously now, YouTube. How do I do this? Ding. 5 minutes later, you actually know how to do it, which is
I
amazing.
know, right? Thank goodness for YouTube and Google.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, how much of an impact did like Viking Con and other conventions affect the project?
Viking Con didn't affect all that much because by that time the project was more or less done. So it was sort of to get some final pointers and so on to see if anything was sort of terrifyingly wrong, which luckily it wasn't. I'd say what has had a great impact is that in Dubai, like I said, we have this thing called GRC, Golf Role Playing Community, that do mini cons every 3 months, and I think there's about like 600 or 700 members, which is pretty cool. We don't have that many showing up at the cons, but every con
Oh wow!
I would run a Black Void scenario, and which would always be with new players, which was a fountain of information in terms of what did they like, what didn't they like,
Oh, absolutely.
what works, what doesn't work. I mean, the first game I ran, I had these lovely people who were hell bent on breaking my system.
Don't you just love those kind of
Yeah, and that
people?
was the first time I ever participated in a con in Dubai, so it was
Oh my
sort of
goodness!
a scary thing. But the cool thing is we laughed and laughed and laughed for 4 hours straight, and what was supposed to be maybe half an hour part of the scenario ended up taking 4 hours. And they thought they broke it, but they didn't. All they did was luckily teach me what worked and sort of what didn't, because it was great to see them do all these things that I had not anticipated, and still it made sense. From a mechanical perspective, everything was fine. From a story perspective, they screwed things up royally. But mechanically, it was wonderful. I think that's the best way I can say it.
Gotcha.
And actually, one of those guys moved to Singapore about half a year ago, so now I get to hang out with him again, which is really
Oh,
cool.
that's good. That is cool. Um,
Yeah.
how did the partnership with Modifius and GameQuest come about?
Right. So.
Oh man, big smile. That makes. I said
Yeah,
Modifius, and you're like, woohoo!
yeah, because that was an incredible dream of mine, because I'd sort of kept my eye on Modifius for a while, because obviously they have some amazing products, and when I was planning the campaign and so on, I was trying to think ahead in terms of, if this is successful, how do I actually get it out to the world beyond just not just but beyond the backers. And obviously, I did some research. Which companies could potentially be partners that I would be interested in working with, and that might be a little bit out of my league, but that I might have a shot at. And Modifius was definitely there.
I mean, you don't settle. I mean, go for the top guy and see where the chips lay. But
what happened was incredible, because I was checking the backer list every day, and I noticed that there was one whose email was at modifius.com. And exactly, that was exactly the sound I made when I saw that. I was like, no. And then, I was like, could it be? Is it? Not sure. I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to write this guy. And say, is this perhaps the Modifius who is the RPG company, so on and so forth? And Lloyd, what was from Modifius, was a great guy. Got back to me and was like, yeah, and he really liked the premise of the game and everything seemed interesting and so on and so forth. So I wrote to him, if I was potentially looking for a distributor, who would I need to reach out to in Modifius?
I like how you dropped that little nugget in there.
Exactly. And then he was awesome. He wrote back to me. It's like, well, Chris is our CEO. He's waiting for an email from you. And I was like, what?
Wow. So Lloyd from Modifius went and prepped.
Apparently, yes. He went and backed, and he not only did that, he actually did a live actual play which is on YouTube, where they play Black Void, which is amazing.
Oh wow!
So I owe Lloyd a lot. I'm happy to say. So, and then after he sent me that email, I was like, whoa, this is insane. So I think I chewed on that and redrafted an email for about 5 days or so before I pulled myself together and actually wrote to Chris.
Man, you must have been just like, yeah,
it was like a mix between complete and utter excitement and trepidation.
I could imagine it's you're trying to write out this proposal or whatever and be professional, but it's like the little kid in you keeps going, I want to play with the toys. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. I want the big gun.
Oh my goodness.
So I finally managed to be sort of all right with the email, and I sent it across. And then, as they say, the rest is history, and here we are.
Awesome.
It's amazing, and they're an amazing company to work with. I'm so happy.
That is cool. Yes. And they're based out of?
They're based out of London.
Okay, gotcha. Now I have to share with you. I am, even though I'm not a role playing gamer. I do more tabletop, typical cardboard games. I am a huge dice fanatic. I mean, if a game comes with dice, I am like all about it. I like to go to cons and I like to get the exclusive dice set and exactly. And I don't use them, but it's like, oh, it's so pretty.
But just to have them, my precious.
Yes. So, how pleased were you with the final product of the dice?
Well, look at it. It's you got a little bit. But there it sort of is. It's still unreal to hold it, I aimed for the stars, and I reached out for Q Workshop, who is among the top producers of dice in the world, no question about it. And the fact that they're based in Europe, because I wanted everything that I did to be produced in Europe. Because I wanted high quality, I wanted somebody that I could work with easily, and so on and so forth. So the fact that they're Poland-based was an advantage, obviously. And I went back and forth with them for probably 4 or 5 months. Not that they were being problematic at all, but I was tweaking the design because I did the design for it. So I wanted to get as close to perfect again as I possibly could. And looking at it, I don't think I could be happier.
So, I mean, the dice are beautiful, and the viewers are able to see actually an image on their screen. The magic of technology.
Hey.
Tell us a little bit about, because we can clearly see the numbers. Tell us a little bit about the script, or I mean, I don't know how you would put it. That's engraved in the dice underneath the numbers.
Right. Well, there's two elements to it. One thing is there's the void symbol integrated into it. So the 12 has the void logo on it, and the 1 has an inverted void logo on it as well. So that's one thing. The second thing is you have cuneiform symbols on there, which is the ancient Babylonian script, because as I don't know if your viewers or listeners know this, but Black Void sort of takes its outset in when Babylon was the greatest city on earth. So what I did was I worked for a long time to get the numbers so that they had the sense, but at the same time was legible. So actually the numbers on the dice are the same numbers that are the chapter numbers in the book. So if you hold up the dice and for chapter 1, you can see it's the same symbol, and so on and so forth. So there's connectivity between these two elements. And secondly, what I wanted to do was to make them look like they could be something you had dug up from ancient Babylon.
I mean, that's what I like the most. I'm just, as I read the backstory of the RPG, I was just like, wow, that like fits into the theme, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I'm really digging your attention to detail. So kudos to you. So let's talk about the core book real quick.
Yeah.
So the viewers that are not familiar with the core book, I mean, 420 pages.
Yeah.
Full color illustrations, over 30 species, beasts, and entities, and over 100 original artwork and maps. Yeah. I mean, the viewers can actually see a picture of the core book. I'm like pointing to it. They can actually see it. Okay. I mean, this thing, because you can get the hardcover or the soft cover, right?
No, it's only made in hardcover.
Only made in hardcover. So this thing is heavy. It's almost
a tome.
It's a tome. It's almost like it's symbolic of the dead weight that your wife had to carry you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it when I received the first copy of it, I was actually a bit blown away by the size of it, because obviously I had an idea, but it was bigger than I had anticipated in real life. But yeah.
Gotcha. So educate myself. What is an esoteric RPG?
Right. So the reason I use that term is because esoteric basically means sort of otherworldly or supernatural. So it is a fantasy RPG, but it's sort of founded in a distant past that could have been. So it's not your traditional fantasy role-playing game, which is why I wanted to use a different term. And I thought esoteric sort of fit that quite well, because you have your whole Lovecraftian thing with the eldritch and so on, which is an amazing word. And I just think esoteric really sort of fit the whole concept and idea that I wanted to come across,
Awesome. And in simple terms, without getting too deep into it, share with our viewers the the concept and overall theme of
Right.
Black Void.
Right. So Black Void starts when, like I said, when Babylon was the greatest city on Earth. What happens is that basically Earth gets hit by a cataclysm, which throws everybody into the void, which is sort of a non-reality beyond reality. And here humanity floats around for eons, or nobody knows how long, to be honest. But what happens then is that the survivors sort of wash up and get sort of spat out through ruptures in between the void and the cosmos. And a lot of them end up in a place called Lin the Eternal, which is the main stage of the setting. So basically what happens is that humanity are sort of refugees caught in this huge dystopian otherworldly place filled with otherworldly beings and diamonds or daemons, you would probably call it, which is the Greek term because they are demonic, but they're neither good nor evil, because there's a whole ambiguity to ethics and morals built into the setting. And there is sort of where the story starts, with humanity being at the bottom of the hierarchy in this otherworldly city.
Oh man, that's it's like, I wish the soundtrack was like playing in the background as you're like describing this. I mean, I could totally like get into that, you know. And you know, one of the reasons why I prefer tabletop games is because I can jump right in and start the game. So character creation for me personally has always been intimidating, because you know, when my friends, you know, back in the day would introduce me to, you know, D&D, they would, I mean, okay, we have to, before we actually meet, we have to like spend an entire day creating characters. And I'm like what? Like an entire day creating characters? I mean, how simple is character creation in Black Void?
It's simple, but it has a lot of options of choice, so to say. So basically, it's 10 steps, but they're really sort of simple. So what you do is you get a certain amount of points that you divide between your traits, which is your basic characteristics, such as strength, agility, intellect, willpower, that sort of thing. When you've done that, you figure out your home world, because, as I said, humanity has washed up all around the cosmos. So your character obviously is influenced by what sort of world they wound up on. So if you're from a savage world where there's nothing but jungles and predators that want to eat you, obviously that's going to affect your character. Or if you're born in Lin, you're a Lin native, so obviously you have social skills with the other residents of the city, and so on and so forth. So that gives some bonuses. And then beyond that, you get to choose which species you want to be. So basically, everybody's human.
Species, like,
yes.
What besides human? Like, what other species are in Black Void?
You can technically only play human. However, you can be a half-blood, which is half human, half something else.
Ah.
Or you can be what's called a void marked, because the void is not only an oblivious sort of ethereal ocean. It has a distorting effect, because the cosmos is order, the void is chaos. Not chaos as in just destruction and chaos same as in 40K, but as in change and catalyst and so on and so forth. But that obviously affects people who get, or who navigate it, or who cross through it, or where the veil between the void and the cosmos is thin.
Oh wow!
The emanating void will influence you. So you can be that as well.
Oh, nice. So why the choice to go to a D12 system rather than the more common D20 system?
3 reasons. 3 primary reasons. There's lots of reasons, but there's 3 primary ones. Is that in Mesopotamia, or Babylon more specifically, the numbers are based on a 6-digit code, and 12 is an important number within their way of doing math and so on and so forth. So that's one. Secondly, it's the most versatile die of them all, because inbuilt into the D12 you have a D6 if you just halve the result, you have a D4, you have a D3, and you have a D2. No other of the dice can actually do that. And thirdly, there was just not enough love given to the D12. It's a beautiful die.
Well, I mean, yeah, we all have our favorites. No, that's
and
cool.
that one was mine, and it just fit into the whole concept. And mechanically wise, I wanted to have something where you had, let's say, exceptional results more often than you would do on a D20, for instance.
Gotcha.
So I've increased the amount of times that something exceptional happens.
Okay.
But I've tried to integrate it into the story so it's not as deteriorating for the game, so to say, because it can be too much in some systems where it completely wrecks a session.
And that makes me think of recalling back to the group that was trying to break your system, or as we would call in gaming, rule lawyers.
Yes.
What do you try to encourage people when they're comparing rules to story and experience? What do you want them to do?
For me, the alpha and the omega is the story. The entire system is built to support story and storytelling. That was what it was all about for me. I had story ideas that I couldn't really see working within other pre-made systems. So I thought, well, I'm just gonna have to make one myself to really make this work in the way I wanted it to, But what I've tried to do is make a system that's as simple as I could possibly get it, because I think simplicity grants diversity. So the less time you actually have to spend on the rules, the more time you have for the fun stuff, which is actually playing the game, So that's one thing, and I try to leave a lot of space for the arbiter, as we call GMs, to let role playing and effort and so on influence, how the mechanics actually work. So one of the things that I do is for skill rolls, for instance, you can, as a player, choose which main trait you want to utilize. For example, if you want to intimidate something, you can use willpower, you can use intellect to do sort of a clever way of doing it, you can use your strength just to seem big and brutish. I want to keep it as wide as possible to really allow player agency. So the mechanic in itself is simple, but it leaves a lot of choice for the creative, both arbiter and player.
Wow, I mean, the more and more I hear you speak, it's every little thing is with a purpose. It's not just glazed
That's why it took so long.
No, but I mean, my hat. I tip my hat to you. I mean, you didn't do anything throughout this journey without purpose, which is amazing. No. It's utterly amazing, and you have a great team that is backing you up. I mean, 9 contributors. Brian, Cameron, John, and others. I mean, 9 contributors. How did you team up with all these people?
Different ways. Some people were people that signed up to get the beta quick start, and obviously liked what they saw. And then I was like, well, I would love to have sort of somebody else sort of interpret my vision and see what they could bring to the table. And we had some that tried and it didn't really, feel right. So I was like, sorry, it doesn't quite fit with the vision. And then you had these amazing guys where it's just like, yes, you make my dream more vivid than it was before I read your piece. So obviously that's amazing. Some of them, like John Crefeld and Dan Cross, I got to work with because of a common friend named Matt, who knew John. And he said, I know this guy who used to work with Gary Gygax. I'm like, really? Okay. And he said, do you want me to introduce you? I'm like, oh, yes, please. That would be wonderful.
I'm like, oh, yes, please.
Exactly. So he did, and John turned out to be an amazing bloke. And we chatted back and forth, and I was like, I have this game that I want to kickstart soon. I have a dream to do a campaign book as a secondary thing in case it actually gets funded. Would you be interested in, working with me on this?
Oh, wow.
And he luckily said yes.
Well, of course. I mean, yes.
And he brought in Dan Cross, who he's also worked with Gary actually, and he has his own role-playing game called Eldritch RPG, which is quite cool as well. And John asked if he could bring Dan along. I'm like, yes, his credentials are amazing, so obviously.
Yes, please.
The more the merrier.
I'm like, it's kind of like you're not going to turn away, money or talent. It's like,
exactly, bring it in, So what we did was we talked, all of us, and then we agreed to play a session that I would run a session with them, just to sort of for them to get their heads into.
Wait. So what did you use to be able to sit down all together and run a session?
Well, we played over. I think, can't remember if it was Hangouts or Skype or whatever it was.
Oh, okay. Well, which is that's how you and I are talking.
I know, it's amazing. It's the wonders of technology.
Because you don't really need to see a board per se. Because if you all have the same elements, then it's like you're just interacting as if we're across the table.
And for the things that you needed, just file sharing through Skype or whatever.
Yeah.
So Dan was sitting in the US, John was sitting in the UK, and I was sitting in Dubai at the time, which was also my first experience at playing role-playing games virtually,
Yeah.
But we had so much fun. We were laughing I think we'd set off like 2 hours or something because it was an insane time, same as right now.
Different time zones.
Exactly. So I think we'd set off like 2 hours, but we ended up playing for 3 or 4, I think.
Oh, of course. That's how it always goes. It's like my wife's, I get home from a gaming session, my wife's like,
you said 8.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I mean,
it's a little past 8.
Yeah, which is actually 10 o'clock is just a little past.
Yeah, give it in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much. No, but that was wonderful, and I could feel, the passion from them, that they liked sort of the vision that I had, and I was 100% sure that they could bring something to the table, and they definitely did. I mean, the 2 scenarios that they did that are part of Those Who Would Be Gods are brilliant, I think.
Nice. And speaking of, bringing stuff to the table, I mean, I saw the artist list, 7 artists, like Jimmy Ling and Luca Medeiros, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I get down there, and then there's your name, and I'm like, wait a minute, like he does artwork. Christoffer does artwork,
all the crappy bits in the book, those are mine.
I mean, how much artistic content did you actually create for the core book?
Well, all the maps are me, because I like drawing maps. But I have to say, after I was done with the city map, I did a calculation. Apparently, I drew like 3,000 or 4,000 small squares to have all the houses in there. So I was pretty tired by that time. But I think, I don't know how much is mine. Maybe somewhere between 5 and 10%, I'd say. But what I do, or what I like to do, is sort of sketch down the basic idea that's in my head, and then talk to these amazing artists about how to bring that to life properly. I have my things that I can do, but these amazing color pieces, I can't do that stuff. That's way beyond my pay grade, I was going to say. But so the ones that you see of me are mostly black and whites, like the weaponry and the ships and some of the other stuff in there. But I've always been drawing, and I think I finally found a style that I think suits sort of the rugged dystopian look that I wanted Black Void to have. But it wasn't sort of enough. So I've been so amazingly lucky with the artists that I've gotten to work with, and I'm still working with, actually.
Oh no, that's great to just work with such a large group of talented folks and influential folks in the industry. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know, especially in the gaming industry. And what's cool is there's not really that competitive environment. Everybody wants to help each other out and and diversify their portfolio. The future of Black Void, what's next? Now they're getting the core book. I know you're already, working and thinking of what, because you got to keep the income rolling now,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so the first supplement book is being worked on at the moment. Art is already being produced. New soundtracks are being worked on as well. So the first thing that's going to come out is a source book / campaign book. I'm going to combine the two. So there's something for the players and there's something for the arbiters as well. And it's, all the details are sort of not finalized or anything, but I think it's probably going to be a 250 or maybe 300 page hardcover as well.
Oh wow! Where do you see Black Void 5 or 6 years from now?
If all goes well, it will be in a place where there's me and hopefully at least a couple of other people working on it full time. At least one writer and hopefully an artist as well.
You want to get from commission work to full-time employees.
Yes. I mean, that's how I've always worked. I like commissions in the sense that, please do this, and then they do it. But I think the reason why it has worked, because it can be very problematic as well, is that I managed to find such amazing people to work with. But my preference is to sit in an office somewhere with the people that are working on this thing, so we can go take a look at this. All right, what do you think of this? Throw some ideas at me and so on and so forth. Because right now, the people that I'm working with, I think there's probably one in each time zone across the globe. which makes things
It makes
a little
things
bit
a
difficult.
little bit difficult. I can imagine.
Yeah, it kind of does. I mean, it's fun and it's good. And Jimmy Ling is actually based here in Singapore, so I'm gonna hook up with him next
Oh,
week. We've
nice.
never met in person, so that another thing that works.
Oh, it's like a blind date.
I know it is. But yeah, that's the dream. The
Nice.
dream is to have a studio that can really build Black Void into this big thing. Another thing is that some people have approached me about taking their games under my wing.
Oh,
which is something which would be very interesting at some point.
yeah. I mean, to expand the catalog of Black Void games. I mean, that's really cool to be approached.
That would be amazing.
And like they come to you with their idea, and like I really think this would fit well under your theme, and with your system.
I don't know if it under my no, not in
Not
that
necessarily?
way. More within. I think what attracted them was, sort of the thoroughness.
Gotcha.
Of what I managed to do, and I think they want to same as why I wanted to work with Modiphius,
Gotcha. So under the Black Void games, I mean
but not as part of Black Void.
But yeah, not as part of the world.
And now I'm thinking, why did I call it Black Void Games? Because then it gets confusing.
Hey, it's your baby. It's
yeah.
I mean,
how it is.
You could. I totally think you could come out with different worlds and themes under the Black Void label because you still have the original, the one that started it all. Black Void itself, and
exactly.
I'm kind of sad because we're getting to the end of our interview here, and it's been really fun. We've actually been going an hour, believe it or not.
Have we?
Yeah. 1 hour and 90 minutes and 22, 23, 24. So really quick before we go, every superhero has a sidekick.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your sidekick and why?
I don't like the term sidekick, but I think that would be the amazing Deborah Corton, who is a member of the golf role-playing community. She has become sort of I call her quality control, because what she does, she's even more perfectionist than I am. So I run everything I do sort of by her, so she makes my vision even better, so to say. And she's a great partner in crime. She helps me a lot, and for moral support as well. To have somebody there who really believes in what I want to achieve is amazing.
Awesome.
So
that is awesome.
That's Deborah for sure.
Does she kind of reel you back in sometimes?
Yes. Oh God. Some of the things she's done to me, but with amazing results. I'll give you one example, which was the cover of the core book. In my mind, was done, and then I think maybe a week before sending it to print, she was like, "Nah, that's shit." I'm like, no. And then, panic, and started reworking. But, the way it looks now, I sat the other day and looked at the two files next to each other, and she was so right. Don't
you hate that? You're like, you were right.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's like, and she said, if you don't trust me, ask your wife. And then I call my wife, like, can you take a look at these two? And like, she's like, yeah, Deborah's right.
So, where can our viewers find you and Black Void on the internet?
Yeah, so blackvoidgames.com. That's the website. Across all social media, not all social media, but the major social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's at Black Void Games. same handle across it.
Okay.
We have a Discord server up and running, which is really cool. Where we discuss, rules and character creations and what's coming up and what would people like to see and how did their latest session go and those sorts of things. There's a link for that in the on the website. There's a link to Modifius where you can buy the products, obviously.
And my partner in crime, JD.
Yes.
That's back in the studio at Petrie's on a different time in a different time zone. She's actually typing all those links
okay, cool.
in the chat. So,
nice.
So if I'm both here and there with JD, am I crossing the streams? Am I messing with the timeline? I don't know, but
but it's supposed to be messed with. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So, Christoffer, thank you so much. It's been
thank you, man.
A wonderful interview. I've loved learning about Black Void, and I look forward to Dustin's playthrough and run through because I now want to sit and play the game. Now, am I able to order the core book and the dice or whatnot through a web shop or anything?
Yeah, Modifia's web shop, you can order core book and those who would be God's campaign book, as well as dice. And you can also order through Drive-Thru RPG, just the PDF versions. The dice are only on the Modifia's web shop at the moment, but we're also in retail across Europe, across the US.
Nice. So
if you see Black Void in a shop, take a picture and send it to me because that would make me so happy.
And tag, make those tags.
Of course,
yes,
of course.
So
yeah,
awesome. Well, thank you very much, Christoffer.
Thank you. This has been an amazing hour or an hour and a half, or however long we've been going on. Time well spent.
And maybe one day we will be in the same location, same time zone, where I can sit down.
Yeah.
And play Black Void with you.
For sure. I would love that. I'd be happy to do that, man.
Awesome. Well, back to our studio where myself and JD are going to take you through a run through with Dustin.
Yep.
Well.
Man, you guys had a great time.
It was awesome.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. So Christoffer and I have an agreement that if I ever go to Essen or he ever comes over here for Gen Con, we're gonna get together and we're gonna play that RPG.
Oh, for sure. That sounds hilarious. I loved the bit when you guys were talking about your favorite dice.
Oh yes, gotta love the dice. Shiny. But unfortunately, Dustin couldn't be here today to do a run through. But we are gonna schedule and put on the calendar a demo of Black Void because I love the simplicity of it. Mm-hmm. The character creation is very easy, and I love how the focus is on the experience and not being a rules lawyer.
It's true. It's my favorite style of RPG. I am absolutely a story above all else kind of girl. And so, of course, we are excited. If you're local in the area, then when it gets on the calendar, then you can sign up to be a part of the game, part of the demo, and then we'll have, of course, a playthrough to let you guys know how that goes, because it's a fabulous game. And that while there are a lot of RPGs on offer, there are certainly more on offer than just the one you probably know about.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us today. If you missed out, don't worry. You can catch the rewind on Facebook, or we'll be also uploading this video to our YouTube channel.
It's true. So, just as a fabulous segue, if you don't follow us on YouTube, please do. We've got some other great interviews up there. But of course, if you missed any part of this one, you're definitely going to want to head over there and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe here on Facebook as well so that you know when we're going live next. And of course, all of our other events on the calendar. You can also check us out on all of our other social media handles on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, go and follow Black Void Games because I am really looking forward to what they have coming out in the future.
All right, everybody. Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.